It's Monday night, round of shots, hanging with my buddy James Strebel, Kevin Hale here. James, what's up, my man?
Oh, not too much, Kevin. Just a big day but actually a big weekend in the area for sports. I mean, you had Kentucky beat Tennessee, you had Louisville get flattened by UNC, and then you had the whole Chris Mack video that was released late Saturday night. So it's been busy on the radio, busy on internet. It's been wild, man, but it's been fun. I have to say, I've enjoyed myself tremendously ever since Saturday at about 11:30 midnight, something like that. Whenever that video came out, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got to listen to a lot of The Take. Finish it.
Take Monday through Friday, ESPN 681.57, 3 to 6 with Andy Sweeney and Mitchell Hannigan. And myself too.
Killed it today.
Thank you.
Yeah, the whole Chris Mack thing. Well, let's do it. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. We got two of our buddies hanging with us. First up, Cameron Mills will be during this first segment, and Dr. John Huang is with us on the second. And let's go to it.
Let's get Cameron in here. Let's go. Let's do
Newlywed. What is it? Are you like stretched out on your bed? What's going on here?
Is this okay? So this is my podcast room. That's why I was making fun of your room, saying it looked like a hotel, because I thought, okay. I asked Susan. My office is directly down the hallway from my stepson's room, and who's 7 years old, has his second day of school tomorrow, and of live school in school. And so I said, I've got this podcast at 9. She says, where are you going to do it? And I said, well, in my office. She said, well, he wants to sleep with the door cracked tonight. I said, okay, I'll go downstairs. So this is my backup room, and there's no desk anywhere in here. So this is like one of our guest room. So I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to lay down. If I look too relaxed, I look too relaxed. This is the second one of these I've done. I did Wayne Turner's podcast laying on my stomach like this too. So it just makes my back feel better. How about that?
That's all right. Hey, I'm on my bed too, Cameron. So don't.
Yeah, but you don't look like it, James. You look
we're
like
not fancy around here.
I don't know if it's the angle, but I also love the way you've got your camera set up the complete opposite way you should. Like you're looking up at you. And yes. I've been told, no, it's always you're supposed to look down. So I love the guts you're showing right now.
Thank you. I try to be outside the box, Cameron.
That's right.
Cameron, again, one of my all-time favorite Kentucky players. Cameron in the 3 Florida game, still great stuff.
Most people don't bring that up first, Kevin. Most people bring up the other stuff. So I always keep bringing up that game. If I get somebody to bring up my '97 tournament run, that would be my ideal fan.
There you go.
Nobody remembers that because we lost, so they forget about the '97 tournament, and that's when I was on fire. And Wayne Turner and I joked between each other about who was actually the second leading. Can you imagine arguing over who the second leading scorer on the team was? But for me, that was like I was either second or third, and I think I actually was third. But I tell Wayne I was second all the time, and that he was third. But so yeah, that's what I wish people would remember the most, is because that's when I played the best. I just happened to hit some shots in the other games, but yeah, 8 of them in that game you're talking about, Kevin.
My bad.
It's not my bad. Thank you for remembering. I'm just saying that the ones that someone asks me all the time, what's your favorite memory of UK of you playing, and they think it's the Duke shot or Florida game, like you brought up, Kevin, but it's actually that '97 run is my favorite because I couldn't miss, and I didn't even see that moment in my life coming. I went from the bench to second or third leading scorer on the team. So,
speaking of being on fire and can't missing, congrats on the marriage.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, didn't think I'd go back. Got married in 2000. Quick divorce. Wasn't a great marriage, and didn't think I'd ever do this again. And then met an incredible woman, and couldn't imagine my life without her. So it's been a great 6 months, and we're still very much in the honeymoon phase. We had a conversation the other night about it's supposed to end, right? This honeymoon phase where we can't be without each other. It's supposed to go away, and but I don't think either of us can imagine that happening right now. So hopefully it sticks around as long as possible.
It's weird, Kevin, because and Cameron, because speaking of like the honeymoon phase or whatever, like. I don't know. I'm at a point now in my marriage is like we're almost like revisiting that. Like we're hanging out all the time. Yeah, that's going on 11 years.
So 11 years in, and you can read it, and it comes back around. All right,
absolutely,
man. My mom and dad told me that sometimes they've been married 50 years. They hit the 50-year mark the night Susan and I got engaged, or the day we got engaged was their 50-year anniversary, and So they tell me all the time that you always love each other. You're just not always in love with each other. And so right now, Susan and I are very much in love with each other. We're hoping to hang on to that as long as we can. But hopefully, if not, we'll bring it back around like you have, James.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the good stuff, man. Absolutely.
Well, again, thanks for hanging with us. Let's talk. Obviously, our hot topic, Kentucky basketball, it's on a roll lately. Cameron, let's not look in the past. Let's look forward, move forward. What's been your take on
let's not look at the beginning of this year.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, beginning, pretty much to the beginning all the way up until 2 weeks ago.
From that point up,
right?
There you go. Bring it to me. What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, I think what a lot of UK fans are getting is look. They're getting what every other team gets from time to time, and that's something that we as fans are spoiled from. I mean, we never have a season like this. So it's over 100 years we've had a season. At one point, I guess the record was we hadn't had a season like this in 100 years. I think the question is how bad were they, and how good can Cal make them? Because I don't think there's any doubt Cal was going to make them better. Because I think that's always the great thing about Cal is he gets these kids in, and there's some, I guess, conversation about, is this group of guys, is he losing his touch as far as bringing in, great recruiting classes? But I mean, every time you go back to the beginning of the year, this year, any year, it's always this is the year. I mean, from media, from fans, from recruiting analysts, they always say, and I don't think this year is an exception. Now, there might have been a few in the past, but this year, I remember everyone saying this is absolutely a number one, number two recruiting class. Maybe I'm misremembering that.
No,
they just didn't turn out to be much at all. That could be talent, that could be confidence, that could be just complete misdiagnosis from Cal and the recruiting analysts about how good these guys are. But I don't think there was any doubt that they were going to get better. It just mattered how, this team at the top of their game, was that going to be worth anything? And I think, I don't know. I think the Tennessee game showed us a lot. I mean, Tennessee, it's funny to me, they were ranked 17th in the country, and they were 8-6 or something. And I mean,
in the SEC,
and they didn't have a great record. And I'm like, why are they ranked so high? But there was at Tennessee, and it was seemed to be a thrashing from start to finish. And that's certainly not something this team has done at all. Their MO was, not being able to hold on to a lead and not being able, or getting a lead and just having a team come back on them. But they won 3 in a row. I think their defense, Kevin, we've talked about this before, because it's kind of one of those adages I always go back to is you can have nights off on offense. You can have nights where you just don't shoot well. But if your defense doesn't ever have to take a night off. It's all about effort and focus and making the right rotations. And with this team, I think part of their focus for the Tennessee game was, never let anybody be without a backup. So, back up your backup. If someone's got to make a rotation to help on defense, you have to make the rotation to help that person. And so don't leave any man behind, I guess would have been. And they did it wonderfully. Now you've got this amazing shot blocker, or a team of great shot blockers. And now they're learning how to play defense. And you saw moments of that. I go back to the 2 Auburn games, what they did, Sharif Cooper, and thinking, okay, their game plan was to shut him down. And they did that pretty much for both games. So I don't know. I know all of a sudden, it's how UK fans are. We wanted Cal fired earlier this year. Some I think still do, but now that we're starting to show some promise, now that the question is turning to, well, is there a chance we can win the SEC? So we went from the worst team in college, certainly one of the worst Kentucky teams ever, to maybe there's a chance we win the SEC. And I think we might have the chance to prove my old argument that this is why college basketball is the greatest sport. You can lose every single regular season game. As long as you turn it on in the tournament, you can still be national champions. Don't think that's going to happen this year, but it sure would be fun to watch this team get better and do something special, even if that means just a Final Four or Elite Eight, because nobody expected that about 4 or 5 games and maybe 6 games into the season.
See, that's where I'm at, Cameron. Personally, it's I get excited when they win or try to. It's tough on some games, right? Like the Vanderbilt game where they have a 17-point lead and they end up winning 82-80, and it's like I want to be happy and celebrate the win. At the same time, it's like you gave up a 17-point lead to Vanderbilt, which is basically 2 dudes who are really good, and Pippen and Disu, and then the rest of the team is they're just not good. So fans are in a difficult spot this season. And to you, what's the proper reaction to this team? Because my reaction has been, I'm with you. I think there's a very small chance that they win the SEC tournament and go to the NCAA tournament. I just don't see it. I like what I've been seeing lately. And to me, it's just basically they can shoot now. I think that cures a lot when you can shoot. Mm-hmm. And B, Davion Mintz seems to has emerged as the guy to hit the big shots in the big moments. I think earlier in the season, Cal wanted either Boston or Sarr to be that guy, and they weren't able to do it. But here in these last few weeks, when Kentucky's won 3 in a row, Davion Mintz has hit some timely 3-pointers and has done a really good job. Is it easy as A, the team's playing defense, B, the team finally is sinking some shots, and C, they have a guy in Davion Mintz that they believe in when the game's on the line?
I think it's got to be all three, right? I mean, you've got to have that star. I think what I look for teams, because I always go back to our 98 team, and I kind of sit on this, is that our 98 team was special because you didn't know who was going to go off in particular night. You couldn't set your game plan to, we have to stop Jamal McGlure, we have to stop Wayne Turner, we have to stop Jeff Shepard, because, okay, so if you focus all your attention on stopping that person, then Scott Padgett will go off for 17 or 20. As Kevin brought up earlier, I went off for 31 one game. We lost, but I still, so we had all that. We didn't have a team of a star. We had a team made up of a lot of great players who hopefully in the 98 case brought it together at the end of the season. So I think the defense does matter. I think that we are, people talk about, okay, what is this team's identity? Every year by this time of the season, fans are looking for an identity of a team. And I didn't think this one had one. I mean, I started to become like I think a lot of fans did, which I usually don't. I'm usually glass half full until the very end, until the game is that last game is over. And then I get frustrated about what they did, or look at like, well, at least we got this far, and but this year it's been hard to do that. So what I really would like to see though is Boston consistently become who Boston was supposed to be. Davion, Mintz playing, what do you hit, like 5 straight threes in that Tennessee game at the beginning.
That first half, he went 5 for 5
in the first half. And then even I think I saw a quote from him saying at the end in the second half, I love the way they talk nowadays about his gun was jammed. I think he said, or he was quoted as saying
that's awesome
to his teammates. But bottom line is he's starting. I think a lot of it is confidence and consistency, right? And in having more confidence, we're going to see more consistency. So if their defense will just not take nights off, I think we can see more games like Tennessee, because that shocked a lot of people. Nobody expected that, even though we were we had won our last 2. I don't think anyone really expected us to be able to. I think there was a chance. A lot of people thought we'd beat Tennessee. I don't think anybody thought we were going to beat them the way we beat them.
Right.
Especially since this team has had a problem closing teams down. We shut this team down from the get-go. It was never a game. And that, I think, gives me more hope than the fact that we're 3-0 in our last 3 games, is that, we actually blew somebody out and they were the 17th ranked team of the country. So I think it's all 3 things you're talking about, James. I think we got to do that, and then we got to just be more consistent going forward.
Do you think with the Texas A&M game being canceled on Tuesday night, is that going to benefit Kentucky or not? Do you think that this is a team that needs to keep playing to continue that, like you said, that confidence? Or do you think you win that big game against Tennessee, then you can really focus on Florida coming up on Saturday, which would be, you sweep the Gators, get to 9 wins, you got 4 in a row. Beating Florida means a lot more than beating Texas A&M. Do you think that this is going to be beneficial or what?
I honestly feel like the practice would do them better, because I think what a lot of people forget is practices, game days are days off. I mean, you from the amount of energy you expend in a practice compared to the amount of energy as an individual you expend in a game, it's nothing. It's apples to oranges. It's you work so much harder in a practice because you got 10 guys. Now Cal's got a 7-8 man rotation right now.
Yeah,
you got 10 guys who are all going at it for 3 hours with very little breaks in a practice. So you're conditioning, the amount of work you're getting in, the amount of shots you're getting in, you get more from a practice day than you do a game day. So I think they're better off that game being, playing it obviously wouldn't be a bad thing, but I think they're better off having that time to take that day and practicing. They're going to get more shots up. They're going to go further playing against each other than they would have going against Texas A&M. And you can always look at it like it's a day off in the sense of, okay, well, we don't have to mentally prep for an opponent in Texas A&M. We can start mentally prepping for Florida. And that's a good thing too. So I think they're better off having missed that game. But I think it's lucky too, because what other season would we be just randomly missing games like this?
Right.
Our guest, Cameron Mills. James, the 1997 scouting report for Cameron Mills would have been, you can't stop him. We can only hope to contain him.
That's right, especially in the tournament.
That's only in the tournament would that have been it. If you've gone back,
come on.
Report at the beginning of the year would have been like, okay, if he happens to get in the game, chances are we've already lost it. I mean, that's the scouting report. If Mills, you go back and look, Derek Anderson was the starting 2-guard. Shep had redshirted. Allen Edwards was playing 2-guard. I was way down the end of the bench, but when DA went down, that's when I got to play. And I had like we were just talking, I had a whole lot of practice, and that practice enabled me to go in and play well when DA went down.
I've always wanted to know the answer to this question. Speaking of Derek Anderson.
Yeah.
All right. So
personally, on the show.
Have you asked this before?
He has said he could have played.
That's what I was going to ask against Arizona in that game. I mean, Pitino, held him out. I get, Rick Pitino has reasons. I think that's something. One of the unfair things that fans do get mad at Rick Pitino over is like he held him out on purpose or something. It's like, why would he hold?
Well, he did. He did hold him out on purpose. I mean,
what's the story behind that?
Well, the story is basically this. It's Derek was working. He's basically practicing with us, but coach's fear, he knew DA had a professional career in front of him. And I think coach's fear was, I think it's twofold. Number one, we had a good thing going in what we had. And it's not to say we couldn't have used DA's talent. We certainly could have, but you throw DA back in the lineup at that point. We've been 2 months without him. We had formed a team that was playing better than anyone expected without him. So you put him in there and all of a sudden, it's not that he messes things up. It's just that maybe we don't have the same flow that we had. Now that's a very small part. I think the big part and the reason he did not play or coach did not put him in other than that free throw, which I guess was in the Minnesota game maybe, or was that, I think it was a Minnesota game, the game before. The only reason he did not play is because I think if you're Coach Pitino and you're looking at this guy has got a professional career, and if I put him in this, nationally televised game and he goes down again, which there would have been an infinitesimal chance of that happening, but what if it had happened?
Sure.
Everyone would have blamed coach on ruining DA's career. Now, if you're a Kentucky fan and you don't care about DA's career because you care about winning national championships, you can argue that, that coach should have put him in. But look, DA says he could have played. He had been practicing with us. He'd been going full force with us. I think it was a matter of let's not mess up with the rotation. We've got something good going. And if I put him in and he goes down, then I look like a selfish coach.
And then Derek Anderson's and then Derek Anderson's professional career could be jeopardized, and that's the last thing Pitino would have wanted.
Jeopardized if he'd gone down, but if he'd gone down and tore that same ACL or just been injured again because he was overcompensating for that injury, and that happens all the time. Then there's question, right? He doesn't get drafted as high. There's question about, especially if it's a knee injury. There's question about is he injury prone, and how many players have you seen in the NBA get the reputation as injury prone?
Sure, absolutely,
and never get more than 2 or 3 chances as they're traded around teams. So I think that had a lot to do with it, and a lot more than people understand.
When I was talking to Derek back in the day, James, he said, he was dunking like normal. I mean, he felt, and I guess Cameron, wouldn't his Derek and or his family have any input on him possibly playing? Because I mean, it's the national championship game.
No. Okay. I mean, I see what you're saying, and DA had gone to coach and said, "Coach, I can play," and he practically had. Right. But the coach is the one that decides whether he plays or not all the time. So it doesn't matter whether or not DA or DA's family had gone to coach and said we want him to play. I mean, if my dad had done that, it wouldn't have mattered. Because Coach Pitino is the coach he gets to decide who plays. And I think honestly,
to play, but could he?
But there wasn't any doubt that he could play, and that's my point. There wasn't any question about that. He could have played. Everyone knew that. Coach Pitino knew that. It was a matter, I think, of what if he gets hurt? I mean, this would have been his first game, and games are different. He was practicing full bore with us. He was, but if I put him in, and he gets, and look, like I said, there's a small chance of it happening, of him getting hurt. But what if? And I honestly feel like it shows a lot of unselfishness by Coach Pitino to say, you know what? I've got my team. Yeah, I've got I've got probably my most talented, maybe one of my, well, certainly my one of two talented players on the team was either DA or Ron Mercer, right? So,
right.
I've got one of them sitting over here, and if I put him in, and he gets hurt, then I look like I'm just a selfish coach.
And 21 was kicking ass.
I look at it this way: if DA plays, now this is selfish on my part. If DA plays, then I don't. Right. So if DA comes back in and plays in that Final Four, that national championship game, well, I took his place. So if DA gets in the game, then I'm back over on the bench. And again, as I said earlier, I'm proud of what I did in that 97 tournament.
Did you ever go to?
Did I traded my playing time for a championship? Absolutely. I would have rather sat the bench, DA play, we win national championship, but then there was no guarantee of that happening. So
you never went to Derek Anderson was like, so are you really feeling okay? Are you sure? I'm just kidding with the camera.
No, I mean, like I said, there was no doubt in anybody's mind that he was ready to play. It was just a matter of, is coach going to give him the chance to play and maybe risk that injury again? Like I said, which would have been a small chance, but you never know.
Is the Terrence Clark, his situation similar? I mean,
meaning what?
Calipari holding him out because of the future? I mean, or is he?
I don't know. I would think you would tend to think yes, more so, because Cal's made no bones about it, especially this year, that, and I hate saying this because I don't like it either as an ex-player or as a fan. I want national championships to be the primary reason that he coaches and that he recruits. I want the secondary reason to be these guys, their future in the NBA. But I completely understand his attitude of, look, he wants to give these guys their dreams. And I think any coach is like that for a large degree. I think, the bottom line is we're not allowed to know as fans how serious or severe these injuries are. Right. I mean, this is a private thing that goes on between the player, his doctor, the medical staff at UK. And, if he's ready to play, then I think coach puts him in. But I think to some degree, Kevin, you're right. It could very easily be, you know what, I want to make sure everything's perfect, right? Because overcompensating for an injury and re-injuring, like for example, if I've got a sprained left ankle, and I did this all the time. This was because I had weak ankles apparently when I was there. I never hurt my knee, never hurt. I think I had a bad back one year, but my ankles were perpetually sprained because I'd go in sooner than I was ready to, and I would overcompensate. So I wouldn't be jumping hard off of my right ankle. I'd be putting more pressure on my left ankle, and when I'd come down, I would be landing more on my left foot than my right foot, and so I would easily sprain that one. And now I've got two sprained ankles, one in recovery and one recently sprained. So you overcompensate a lot. It's all in your head, or a lot of it's in your head. So it could be that he just wants to make sure that he is good to go before he puts him back in.
I know you're getting ready. We need to let you go. You are still a newlywed. We want to keep everything copacetic there. Is the Shepherds, Cal, all on the same page right now?
Yeah. Look, Reed's a sophomore, and Jeff and Reed, the whole Shepherd family, Stacy, even Madison, their daughter who plays college basketball at Campbellsville, I think they are loving this. I mean, Reed went through a transformation this summer, or I guess it was technically during the COVID, the last 12 months of COVID, where he kind of, and it's always that, I don't know why, I guess it happens in high school too. You kind of learn from your freshman to sophomore season in both college and high school. You've had that first year of high school and you learn what it takes to compete. Well, Reed has this fortunate advantage of having a father who can tell him and teach him, hey, if this is what you want to do, here's what it takes. It's not a matter of, going down the street every other day and getting up a couple of jump shots. Right. It's a matter of every day committing yourself to playing college basketball. And that's what Reed did in the last 12 months. He took full advantage of COVID and this time off, and was able to get in a gym and busted his tail all year for a full year. But as far as UK and Reed, they're exactly where, as Shep said on my show, there is no issue. UK is recruiting. There has been conversation. Everything's limited right now because of COVID. But they are talking. So there is no, this idea. And this is what led me to do what I did on my show and through a tweet a couple weeks ago. Anyway, I got sick and tired of, I would tweet Reed's stats, right? Madison would send me his stats and I would tweet him. He's got, I don't know how many triple doubles he's got. He's one of the best players by far in the state right now. And I would tweet out, just I don't know, a clip or something of him playing, and I'd get these responses from people saying, it doesn't matter. Cal will never recruit him. Shep would never let him play for Cal, which is all nonsense. Kentucky is recruiting Reed. And Shep would have no problem with Reed going there. The thing is, though, this is Reed's decision, and that's what Shep, I think, is saying, and wants everybody to understand is that Reed is going to go. Now, he's still, Shep and Stacey are still his parents, and they're going to have some say in it. Sure. But they have said this is ultimately Reed's decision, and Shep has blatantly said, and he said it on my show, he would not, under any circumstances, stand in Reed's way if he wanted to play for Kentucky, and that's not even a controversial thing. I don't think any father would do that. And I think more importantly, there is no issue that Jeff Shepherd has with Coach Calipari, nor has there ever been. There's never been, for whatever reason, the guys in the 96 team, the 98 team, or, my teammates, the guys that played in those late 90s, for whatever reason, there's a lot of thinking that, we greatly dislike Cal, and there's no truth to that whatsoever.
It's weird. They're all set up as like this adversarial group. Yeah, I never understood it.
It's been promoted by some radio personalities, but falsely.
Is it a Patino Cal thing? Is it that whole?
Is that what drives
I think that was part of it. Yeah, it was. Okay. Look, Coach Patino was our coach. He was who we played for, and when he was at Louisville. That caused some strife, silly strife as far as we were concerned. But look, Cal and Patino, when they played, they publicly came out and said, no, there's no issue between it. Well, look, we're coaches, we're competitive. We go after the same players, and yes, we want to beat each other when it comes to playing each other in the recruiting game and when it comes to playing. But everyone thinks there's hate and animosity, and that's just not the way it is. Look at the game. Look at before Louisville and Kentucky play every year. Watch what happens before and after the game. I mean, the guys go up and hug each other. The guys have been playing together for years. I know fans want there to be this live or die, hate, absolutely, won't talk to you, beat you up kind of attitude between the players and the coaches. That just isn't the way it is. Now, the Chris Mack thing the other day, that's just rivalry. That's just him coming out saying he hates Kentucky. Well, I don't think there's a lot of love as far as competitive love between fans, and certainly Kentucky staff want to beat Louisville every year. But as far as being on the court, I think there's a lot of understanding that this is just a game. And I think the fans sometimes want to take it a little further than that, but it's just a game. So as much as I want to beat Louisville every year, it's not. Here's what Coach Patino put in us. And I don't know if Coach Cal's like this or not, but Coach Patino wanted to make sure we understood that the Louisville game was no bigger than any other game. Now, you get to the Louisville game and you realize, especially as a Kentucky boy like me, it kind of is a little bit of a bigger game, but his attitude is you approach it the same way you approach everything else. So bottom line is, I think that did cause some strife between us, Kevin, when Coach Pino was still at Louisville. But the bottom line is also that there's no animosity between Shep and Cal, and Kentucky is actively recruiting within the rules that are set forth right now. They are actively recruiting Reed. And so I don't know what anyone would, any rumor or any comment to the opposite is just it's nonsense, it's rumor, and it's not true.
Did you hear Derek Anderson was recently on a podcast with Vinny Hardy and Tony? Don't you hear what he threw his name in the hat to?
Oh, I know. Yeah, and look, that's just DA wanting. I mean, I think DA and Tony both on the podcast, both saying DA more so because he's the one that Instagrammed or tweeted something out. That they'd like to help. The thing is, I don't, and this is just DA's passion. That's where it comes from. But it's not. I don't think that's how you get a job on a team, right? You don't kind of announce to everybody that you need to put me on your
sideline. Are you saying social media is not a job?
I don't think that's. But look, that's DA's passion for what he wants. He's frustrated by this season. He thinks he can help, so he put it out there. But I don't think that instantly. I don't feel like that instantly, brought Cal into, maybe we need to talk to this guy.
We need to get Derek Anderson on the team. Yeah.
Well, look,
or on the staff.
Well, look at it this way. So you've had Tony Delk has been on Cal's staff. Wayne Turner's been on Cal's staff. Scott Padgett's been on Cal's staff. Now, DA has not, but DA is, that he's not been asked. And I think he's wanting an opportunity. I just don't know that that's the way you do it, but I think that's just DA's passion that brings him to that point.
I'd love to see it. Personally, I love Derek Anderson. I'd love to see it happen.
Cameron, you gave us 20 plus. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Cameron.
Much love to you. Peace and love. And
you too, Kevin, James, both of you. Thanks for having me on. It's good to talk to you again.
All right, good to talk to you. Have a good night, Cameron.
Have a good night.
It's straight.
Interesting stuff there.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff for sure.
Yeah. All right. keeping the flow going.
You got to bring him on. There he is
in the house.
One of my all-time favorite people in the Kentucky media, Dr. Huang.
In the world, man.
I feel like I need to get my oxygen mask. Cameron Mills, he's a professional speaker. I don't care if he's laying on a bed or not. When he's in the room, all the oxygen gets sucked out. I need one of those monitors on my fingers. I'm feeling a little bit lightheaded already, and we're not even getting started.
Your hair game's great tonight, by the way, Joe.
Well, thanks for having me on. What else am I going to be doing on a Monday night? In fact, I'm probably free tomorrow night too, since the Texas A&M game was called off. So
I know.
Do this again tomorrow night.
I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked Cameron Mills, John. And what do you think about that? I mean, Kentucky's on a bit of a roll, 3 wins in the last 3 games, and you get another winnable game taken away from you. What are your feelings about the team's continued projection into the future, and whether or not losing this Texas A&M game is a benefit or a hindrance? I mean, they could say at this point, you know what? Let's focus on Florida, which is a bigger game. You beat Florida, it's a bigger deal than if you beat Texas A&M. And if you would have lost to Texas A&M, which I think this team's capable of losing to anybody, if they lost to Texas A&M, that's all she wrote. So, what are your thoughts on losing this game with the Aggies?
I think the answer to your question is yes and yes. I think they will benefit from a week of practice preparation for Florida, but I think the more important thing is the resume. This is a very winnable game that they're going to potentially lose on not having it on the schedule anymore. So they need wins. So if they can get that Texas A&M game in, if they can get that South Carolina game rescheduled, then I think that's going to help them resume-wise, and I think that's what's important. Even Cal said on his radio show today that he would probably prefer not to play a game this week. He would want to have those games rescheduled after the Florida game, after the Ole Miss game.
Because there's that buffer week in between that and the SEC tournament where they could fit a game or maybe even 2 in. So, yeah, I agree with you, John. I'm
exactly. The hope is that they'll be able to get 2 in. I mean, 2 more wins, that's going to really boost the resume. I mean, you're looking at Kentucky this year, and they're a team in which they're a lot better than their record indicates. So if they get a couple more wins on there, who knows? Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I'm going to push back a little bit. I know the resume, but before the resume becomes a resume, doesn't that record have to be at a certain level? I mean, your resume, you can have some good wins going down the stretch, but you still got to have a good record, decent record, right?
It's got to be above 500. I think they said the worst at-large record that ever got into the tournament was something like 16-14. So if Kentucky were to win out and lose in the finals of the SEC tournament, I think their record would be 15-14. So
it's maybe one game.
Yeah, it's one game. But I think they've got to put all their marbles in winning this tournament. And I've got hope for one reason right now, and that's basically because Kentucky has shown that they can actually win 3 games in a row. If they can beat Florida, then they've won 4 games in a row, which is what I think they're going to eventually need to do. But if you look where they are, the 4 teams above them, they've gotten very close in each one of those contests. I mean, you've got a 13-point win against LSU. You've got a 15-point win against Tennessee. You had that 18-point win against Florida.
Sure.
Within 14 seconds of beating Arkansas. Then, of course, the Alabama game, they stuck with them until the last 3.5 minutes. So, yeah, the cliche is true. They can win any game. They can lose any game. The problem is winning 4 of those in a row. They've got to show that they can do that.
Well, not only that, I mean, it's 4 in 4 days.
Yeah.
There's no time to prep. There's no rest involved. They're not going to get the double bye. I think, that's going to be out of the conversation for losing the Texas A&M game. And then I think the teams ahead of them won, over the weekend. So I think that road is a little tougher. But yeah, winning 4 games in 4 days with all that pressure, this team just doesn't seem to do well with pressure outside of the last. Well, actually, John, honestly, outside of just the last game, even wins against Auburn and win against Vanderbilt, we saw the meltdown happen again. And it's like, I can't bring myself to trust this team to pull something like that off. I just can't do it.
That's typical you, James Strebel. You're Mr. Negative now. From what I understand, Mr. Lukewarm, right?
Yeah. Oh, you heard that?
Yeah, because you're lukewarm, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. So I think Big Blue Nation
biblical reference.
Spit you out of their mouths.
Yeah. Let's. I'm glad you brought that up. I want to go there because the narrative with you guys lately. Now, John, you appeared on some friends of ours, our podcast this morning. There was the take with, or the narrative with you is that, the Cal and the Dante Allen thing, and then James, I'm gonna let you jump in because your take has been you're not supporting the Cats. I'm with you, James. It's not that you're not supporting them. You're just calling it as it is. So, but go ahead, John. I'll start with you.
No, I went on just basically to defend myself. People have somehow gotten this mistaken impression that I am anti-Calipari. I am not anti-Calipari. In fact, the guy wrote the foreword for my book. How can I be anti-Calipari? Mm-hmm. I was one of the first ones to come out and say that in this particular year with COVID, everything that's going on, he needs to have a pass. But my biggest beef was that he has continuously, and I think this is the chatter within all the fan base, that he has been talking down continuously to the fan base and to the media. James, it's no different than any of the other years. It's just a little bit more noticeable this year, simply because the team is 0-15 or whatever. That's when all the haters are going to come out. But no, Calipari has always been very, very flippant and dismissive. Hey, I know more than you. He should know more than us. He's the coach being paid $9 million. So my take was that he needs to be a little bit more reflective of how he's addressing the fan base. And I think he's essentially admitted that he was wrong, because if you notice during his last few coaches shows, he's gone out of his way to go ahead and compliment Big Blue Nation. It's a big part of the program and it should never be dismissed.
And that's kind of where, I don't know where I got in trouble. I don't think I'm in trouble with anybody, but I'm a very emotional guy. I don't know if you know that or not. I'm very emotional.
No.
And so I'm going to react.
On your sleeve, brother. On your sleeve.
Yeah. I'm going to react, how I feel at that moment. So when that game is over, I go right on the air and I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel about it. And some people didn't like that, and they don't like that. It's almost like it's a competition almost to see who's the biggest fan. It's like, you didn't pick them to win that game. I pick them to win every game. How can you be a Kentucky fan and not pick them to win? Like, well, because I'm a Kentucky fan and I live in reality. Like, I live in the real world where Kentucky can lose games. And this year they've lost a lot of games. And
you realize, James, there's some fans right now whose predictions with Kentucky basketball this year matches the Kentucky record. And you know why? It's because they picked them to win every game, when clearly during the season that wasn't going to happen on certain nights. I think go ahead.
No, I just say it's tough. It's tough to argue with those people because they get both sides of it, right? When they win, they can feel good and say, "Yeah, in your face, I pick them to win. You pick them to lose. You're a hater." Or when Kentucky loses, oh, you can't criticize them. You're not a part of the fan base. The team, you can't do that to the team. Why are you so mean to the kids and everything? It's like, man, you don't get to have it both ways. True. Yeah. It's like you don't get to have it both ways. I mean, that's not, in my opinion, not being a part of a part of being a fan. I think with a part of being a fan is being a fanatic, one way or the other. When they lose, you're way down. When they win, you're way up. But this wagging your finger and you don't do that, James Strebel. Don't you be mean to the Cats. I'm like, I'm not being mean to the Cats. I'm just telling you like it is, man. Calipari's pissed off too. It's not like he's skipping and throwing rose petals and happy as can be when you lose to an inbound pass against Georgia. I mean, are you telling me Cal's happy about that? You think he was kissing everybody like he didn't say, "Hey, smile, everybody," after that game? Hell no, he was pissed off.
Yeah, I feel for you, James. I mean, that's where you need to really wear that balance of having those two hats. I mean, you're a fan, but you're a part of the media. People are listening to what you're saying. And I can't imagine going on a show immediately after a game being as wound up with the emotions as I am. I like to take a day or so, kind of reflect and come out, so make sure I don't put my foot in my mouth.
Sure, yeah. Well, I do want to ask you this, John, because Kentucky media has been getting a lot of praise in this regard. They're asking Calipari tough questions this season, and you know, being one of them, you're never bashful or afraid about asking any types of questions at all. But I mean, is it just? I mean, what's brought that out? Because normally college media, and you've been around a lot of it, John. Mm-hmm. College media tend to be a little more delicate with their questions than like the professional media, like professional sports, baseball, basketball, football, whatever, you name it. They go right the jugular. I guess the difference between, you know, those guys are getting paid as opposed to where the college kids aren't. But what is it about this season that's kind of like, for the Kentucky media, you guys are holding Cal's feet to the fire and you guys are asking him those tough questions where we really haven't seen that much in the past?
Yeah, I think it's the 8-13 record. You know, that will bring out a lot of accountability. I mean, a lot of people, we've never gone through anything like this before. I mean, you're looking at 115 seasons of Kentucky basketball, and in mid-February, Kentucky basketball was on track to have the worst record ever in the history of their program. This is the program with the greatest tradition in the history of college basketball.
The most wins, yes, everything.
Yes, people, and even that's in jeopardy right now. Kansas is hot on the heels. If Kentucky doesn't buckle down and win a couple of these, and maybe have a couple of tournament wins, then they're going to be the second all-time winningest program. That doesn't sound nearly as good. In fact, I've got a couple of basketball books coming out. If Kansas catches Kentucky, I'm going to go back and have to re-edit those things.
And you don't want to do that.
No, and plus, it doesn't sound as good when you have to say they're the second all-time winningest program in the history of college basketball. So, in answer to your question,
can you just insert the word former in front of the number one?
Yeah, something easy like that. But I don't really have anything to compare it to, James. I mean, you hear about Kentucky media, then you hear about Louisville media. I guess the word on them has always been they're more traditionally soft, you know, as opposed to questions that Kentucky media would ask Kentucky coaches. I mean, do you find that to be true?
Well, today is a good example of that, John and Kevin. As you know, as you both know, the Chris Mack video came out, and Chris Mack held a press conference today and only received 2 questions about the video. One came from Tim Sullivan from the Courier-Journal, who is, you know, a curmudgeonly individual, and he's going to ask those questions. The other one was Jerry Tipton from the Lexington Herald-Leader. Nobody else in the Louisville media asked him about that video. And look, I think the video's whatever. I think it's funny. I like that kind of stuff in the rivalry. But when you have the COVID situation that's going on in Louisville, and you have Chris Mack in his what appears to be his basement with a large group of people, and you know, according to Perrin Johnson on ESPN 680's Radio Wave, said that Vince Tyree, the athletic director, was over there too, and there's no questions from the media about any of that when they kicked off 3 players from the soccer team earlier in the season for having a party. Kicked them off the soccer team. You've got your basketball coach doing these things. You have your team missing 3, almost 4 weeks of basketball games because they can't handle the COVID. Now, I'm not trying to COVID shame them at all, because I got the virus. I still don't know how I got it. I mean, I'm not trying to blame them at all, but you would think that there'd be a little more questioning in those regards from the media, and it just wasn't there. They were like, okay, moving on to Malik Williams plays here tonight. That's cool, right? It was kind of like, what?
So you're telling me that nobody asked him how many people were in the basement,
or
who was there, or why he wasn't wearing a mask at all? I mean, I guarantee you that either a John Hale or a Kyle Tucker or a Jerry Tipton
or you
out and asked somebody like that, or myself, if the tables were reversed and we were talking about something that Calipari had done. You know,
I know Jerry Tipton would have.
Yeah, I guarantee you that would have happened. So I guess that's a good contrast of 2 media styles.
You know, the one thing, you know, kind of getting back to the whole Cal with the media and the fan narrative, the Dante Allen thing, I do get why the questions were thrown at him about Dante Allen, because, you know, the players that were playing couldn't hit fucking water if they fell out of the boat. And so there was, you know, you got a shooter. Can you figure how to get him on the floor, and, you know, that and this and that? But what are taking all that aside, the one thing I've just struggled with Cal this year is some of his freaking sound bites. You know, this is, you know, Kentucky's not for everybody. But I can't. What do you mean do? Break the kid's heart by taking him out? The fan, all this stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's been such a crazy season, and to hear kind of his thinking on, with this season, it's been a 180 to a degree.
Well, with the Dante situation, what do you expect us to? How do you
Right.
expect us to react? I mean, Kentucky has all these players. They can't hit the broadside of a barn. You've got the shooter supposedly on the bench. He comes in and immediately against Mississippi State, he scores 23 points. Very next game against Vandy, he pours in 14. Big win at Florida, he hits 2 huge 3-pointers. So, of course, we're going to think, what in the heck were you doing, Cal? This is what you should have been doing. Now, unfortunately, we didn't know that the pressure and the attention and the focus on Dante being a Kentucky player, the other teams adjusting to him would kind of start playing on not only his ability on the court, but his mindset. That was unfortunate. And he's at a point now where he really needs to readjust. So I don't think it's a matter of Cal was right all along not to play him. I think you just have to look at the timing of the situation, where things were. And of course, him coming in and doing what he did, how can you expect me not to say that was the wrong thing to do? But yeah, Cal and his sound bites, his take the players hard, his dismissing of Kenny Payne. Here, I've got another one for you. I've got a prop too. Here, dagger. He's all over the place with that now.
Yes, I like that.
You just kind of roll your eyes and say, this is the Calipari we love and Cal we trust. Come on, coach, turn it on. Let's go on another run and all will be forgiven again.
So what is your realistic expectation for this team? 2 regular season games left for now, and then the SEC tournament. How do you see this story ending? Not the imagine, not unless you really believe it, not the fairy tale ending. Or what do you think this team? How do you think this team ends the season? 3 weeks from now, when we look back on this podcast, what do you think is going to happen?
2 things. At the risk of not being a James Strebel lukewarm guy, I do think the Cats are going to go on a run. I think they'll continue to win. They'll beat Florida. It'll be a tough game down at Mississippi. Ole Miss, they won a bunch in a row, and they're playing really well. So I'm hoping Kentucky can go ahead and squeak that one out. Maybe they'll make up one of the games against either Texas A&M or South Carolina. Now they say that all bets are off, though. They could be able to get other teams in addition to those 2, too. I heard, possibly it could be a Georgia or Missouri. These teams that they've only played once this year, they come in, Rupp Arena. So if they can go ahead and notch a few more notches on their belt, on their resume, maybe win a couple in the tournament, then count on Mitch Barnhart, all-powerful Mitch in his position as head of this committee, to maybe show us how much he's actually worth. Maybe change a little bit of the parameters involved. They put a little bit more weight on the end of the season performance. Maybe Kentucky still has a chance to get in. I'm not completely dismissing it. If you put a gun to my head and say, pick John, they going to make it or not, I'm going to go ahead.
Put that dagger to you.
Yeah, dagger again. Dagger.
Another question real quick for
you, Jay,
John.
Hold that thought. Yeah. I got to share this because this is our man. In regards to sound bites and Joe, this is Jay. React like you don't see practice and take Cal's word and record for it.
I mean, okay, I'm taking the record this season, and and look, I understand where Jay's coming from and everything, but I don't know. The Dante Allen stuff has been taxing, to say the least. It's been taxing on everybody, and him especially. I mean, and you brought it up, John. You said it. Well, there's my microphone. You said it, John. I mean, the pressure on a kid that's from Kentucky to not only play Kentucky, but play well Kentucky, it's pretty tremendous. We just had Cameron Mills on, talking about Reed Shepherd, and I did a post-game show, John, where I had texters texting me in like, I'm worried that losing like this that means that we're not going to get Reed Shepherd. And I was like, what? I was like, Reed Shepherd's the least of our worries right now. Like we're terrible, and you're worried about whether or not we're going to get a sophomore in high school. So that just gives you a little bit of a glimpse of like the pressure that's on Dante Allen to perform well. And then once he did, it exacerbated even more. And now that he's not playing well, I'm sure he feels worse about it. So I mean, I don't envy that kid at all and what he's gone through.
Yeah, James, here's where I can put your mind at ease. And I think this is where Jay is coming from too. We need to have confidence that this Kentucky team is going to make the tournament, because now we know that they have at least one inbounds play. How
they
about
do.
that Toppin one? Huh?
That's right. That dunk was nice.
Now, right?
Yeah. But you know what they don't have? And this has drove me absolutely freaking effing crazy this year. There is zero post presence with our team. Nothing. There is no play set up for our post. No guys are playing with their back to the basket and trying to give us some type of an inside game to help free up some of the shooting. Why, James? Why do we not? We've got size.
Well,
right?
I know from watching, especially the game this season, they couldn't get the ball down there. I don't know if y'all remember watching or not, but there were games where Sarr or Jackson,
or both. I guess both.
I don't know if they could, because
right.
I mean, Devin Askew just for whatever reason, he just had trouble getting it down there and passing it at their feet, or looking at them open and just opting to go somewhere else. I don't know what it was, but I mean, I also want to mention this though. Olivier Sarr is not like a back to the basket big. He's just not. Cal likes back to the basket bigs. He's recruited some guys that he thought he could make that type of a player. Scalabissier comes to mind as well. And they just don't want to do it. That's just not in their game. Olivier Sarr would rather hit mid-range jumpers and threes.
I'm telling you, if the West Virginia transfer first shot is facing the basket from about 20-some feet out, I will lose my damn mind.
I don't think I hope that won't be the case. But, I mean, do you guys, and this, I'm stealing this from Andy Sweeney, do you guys
what show is that, James?
The Take 3 to 6 on ESPN 680 1057.
Right.
Do you think that Cal's going to learn from anything this season and adjust either his recruiting tactics or his philosophy on coaching or whatever? Or is he just going to be like, this year was an anomaly, I'm just going to keep doing the way I've been doing things forever? Or, I mean, I know this example has been used ad nauseum. Nick Saban had to figure out, I need to play offense. I can't win 9-6 in modern day college football. I need to win 31-15 or whatever it is, or 45-22. That's how I need to win games. Do you think Cal can do that, John and Kevin, or do you think he's just going to be like, well, it was just a bad year, move on?
Probably a little bit of both. I think he is adjusting a little bit. I think the one thing he will be certain of is he realizes the importance of shooting now. I think that's finally gotten into his mind. He's at a team of people who just couldn't shoot. And then when you have these guys like Johnny Juzang, who you're recruiting.
What season is this, John?
What's that?
What season is Cal in?
Yeah, he's in this season.
No, I meant as in how many? What is it? What, 12th season?
Oh, his is 12th. Correct.
You realize you two share the same name, by the way.
John and John. Yeah. But anyway, I think he's set on bringing some shooting recruits in. There was this one guy who is it Trevor Keels. You know, I hear he's a 5-star. His forte is shooting, putting the ball in the basket. So I think it's dawning on him that, yes, this is the direction that he definitely needs to move in. He can't return another year. I mean, 1 year like this, yes, we can dismiss it. It's a little bit of a blip. 2 years like this, unacceptable, not going to happen.
Right.
James, when was the last time, seriously, Cal had to evaluate a player? Had to go find a player? My point, here's my point, is that it starts with this list of players who are 5 stars and kind of go down. So these are the 5 stars. We're gonna see which one of these guys kind of fit us.
Mm-hmm.
I can't Cal having to actually get dirty, recruit, and when I say dirty, as in putting in a lot of work to go find a player. That's not happened because those players are kind of handed to him on a list, and then he gets to pick and choose from them. So he's not trying. When has he found the diamond in the rough?
I think he's found a few. I think like a Devin Booker or Tyler Ulis or a Tyler Hero were kind of like diamonds in the rough. Or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a good one too. I mean, he's a 4-star guy that nobody really had any aspirations to be an NBA lottery pick. I mean, a top 10 pick. I mean, he's had a few that he's had to go at. That he's found in the rough. But I do think that it's going to be more difficult to kind of pick and choose who you want with the advent of the G League, and it's been very successful. And I think players like Jalen Green or Jonathan Kuminga are going to be their pitchmen for the G League experience, saying, "Hey, look, I got paid $700,000. I got to work with NBA vets. I got to work with NBA coaches. Don't go to college where you play for free and you get college coaching. Come to the G League, get paid some money, and get NBA training." So I do think it's going to be more difficult for John Calipari in the future. Not only that, I mean, John, and Kevin, you guys know this. A lot of these players aren't going to your traditional blue bloods any longer. I mean, they're going all over the place. When you look at Cade Cunningham in Oklahoma State, you've got Gonzaga, Oregon, Washington. I mean, Sharif Cooper in Auburn. They're not just. It's not Coach K, Bill Self, and John Calipari saying, "I want him, and him locked up, ready to go." The landscape of recruiting in college basketball has changed tremendously, and I think Calipari is still in the process of adjusting to it. And not only that, but also learning now this new transfer portal where you have guys that can come in and play for you immediately from other schools.
And they can leave. They can leave immediately also if they don't get the playing time that they anticipated too. It's going to be like the Wild West. It's going to be interesting.
The Wild West that from kids that leave Kentucky to go out west. What's Juzang's stat line?
I was going to say, I know that's one of Dr. Huang's topics here is Johnny Juzang. He got Pac-12 Player of the Week.
Yeah, he's still like 30, 31, 32 points. I mean, the guy could shoot. Too bad he got homesick, right? Homesick.
Wait. Yeah.
He could, man. Just think of the difference that he would have made with this team this year. They needed a guy like him badly, and a guy like even like an Ashton Higgins who got booted from the Timberwolves because he can't follow COVID protocols.
How good could he have been? I mean, I watched that Michigan-Ohio State game, and they had like 2 or 3 guys who could beat everybody off of the dribble. It just changes the entire dynamics of your offense. Yeah, Kevin, you talked about why Kentucky isn't going inside anymore. I mean, it's ironic that Calipari, I think one of his tweaks now is he's trying to spread the floor even a little bit more. They're playing 1-on-4. You'll never see Olivier Sarr and Isaiah Jackson, playing down low together anymore. If they're both in the game at the same time, they'll be separate.
They're spread out.
Isaiah? Damn, that dunk that he had, boy, you talk about some. What's that odor I smell? Is that draft lottery for Isaiah? Yeah, it must be.
Yeah, I mean, clearly his stock is just. I mean, he's looking.
He's
good.
Come along. I mean, that's another sad thing. I know we got to end here soon, but another not sad thing, but another disappointing aspect of this season is there are players that have gotten a lot better on this team, and it's overshadowed by the 8-13 record. And it sucks, but that's just the way it is. I mean, it's a lot easier to praise progress when you're winning, but when you're losing, that progress is much more difficult to point out and focus on.
And not to mention this season clearly has wrecked BJ Boston's film documentary. You are aware of that, John, right?
What, with BJ?
Yeah.
No, what has he been doing?
Who shared that with us? You remember
Jack Pilgrim. We had Jack Pilgrim on with us.
Please share that.
Right in the middle of when the season was just going, like when everyone finally realized, like, oh crap, this is not going to get better anytime soon. Jack Pilgrim was on with us and said that BJ Boston, whom he believed was going to be a great player, we all believe was going to be a great player, he brought a documentary film crew with him to Kentucky and was like, like, why are you doing that? He's like, because this is going to be like a movie. What's about to happen? It's like a movie, all right. It's a horror movie. It's
M. Night Shyamalan.
M. Night Shyamalan twist movie where the twist is
maybe the swerve is that we'll get our shit together.
As Cal said, cream rising to the top. So, at the end of the year, you'll see Terrence Clark, you'll see BJ Boston, you'll see Isaiah Jackson all go. It's a normal succession. They'll make room for these new guys coming in, and then we'll kind of be dealing with a new team again next year.
Same bat time, bat channel. Yeah. All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Say it again.
No, that's in Cal we trust, right?
Yeah, right.
Jay says, let's just sit back. Let's just enjoy it. Let's watch Calipari weave his magic. Or crash.
Or crash and burn, right?
Give me, John, we're signing off here. Give me your final shot. It doesn't have to be sports related. It can be just something that we haven't talked about. You want to just share?
Yeah, let me throw out something a little bit serious. It's been a difficult week for me personally. I lost 2 classmates from our dental school class. It's been a long time. So they weren't young guys, but they weren't old either. And when you spend 4 years together every day in either a classroom or a lab with these guys, they do feel like brothers to you. So it's a tough time. I mean, we had 60 people in our class. We've lost about 9 or 10 of them. And so it makes you think a little bit about your mortality. So my parting shot is, hey, life is too short. We've got to enjoy it. Hug your wife, pet your dog, enjoy Kentucky basketball. It's a pleasant distraction. It's nothing more than that. But life is short. Got to live it.
There you go. Good stuff there. James, give me a final.
I like it there, Doctor. And by the way, Doctor, I need to know how you got that dog blanket, because we got a little bitty miniature wiener dog that my wife adores, and I thought maybe I'd get I saw that dog blanket you have in your dog. I was like, that could be a good gift.
You got to do it, and you got to do it while you're still able to enjoy them, because once you lose them, then I think it becomes a little bit too painful. Pet lovers will know exactly what I'm talking about. So
right, absolutely. Right. I guess my parting shot is just to kind of wrap up the Chris Mack talk today. And look, I don't personally have a problem with the video at all. I thought it was funny. It's the rivalry. I mean, Chris Mack did look like a dork in the video. But the most important thing is that we have Chris Mack recorded now on a Zoom recording, just completely kissing the butt of one John Vincent Calipari. And that was the perfect end to this little mini saga, was Chris Mack having to pick up the phone and call Calipari. Oh, I'm sorry, Cal. I didn't know that you're going to see this. I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me, Cal. Oh, you're better than me. We won on a fluke this season. I'm sorry. That to me was the perfect ending to this entire deal, and I loved every second of it. I hope Calipari let him sit. I hope he didn't call him back for over an hour later, just made him sit and sweat and worry whether or not Calipari was going to return his phone call. And of course he did. And of course Cal was gracious. And Chris Mack said he even gave him a few little tidbits of advice, which I thought was cute. So I hope Chris Mack recorded that in his journal, the Calipari's advice for him today, and moves on with it. But no, I love that stuff in the rivalry. I started to miss it a little bit, as much as we all, pissed and moaned about Rick Pitino. The great thing about him coaching U of L was that rivalry was always going to be intense, and it was always going to be there. With Mac, we didn't know what his personality was, but here this past year, we've seen it come out a little bit, and I think it's good for both sides.
I agree. I like that, James.
Yeah, I do too. And I think I know Dork, and you're right. That was Dork.
Oh, me too. I'm with you. We're in the brotherhood together, the Dork brotherhood.
All right, James, Cameron Mills, first segment, Dr. John in second. Good show tonight, guys.
Awesome show.
All right.
Thanks, John.
Thanks so much.
Dagger.
Everybody have a good night. Peace out.
Have a good night, guys. Thanks, Doctor.